Welcome back to Legends Live, as presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association. This is the home of all our NBA and WNBA legends. I'd like to remind our viewers that you can submit questions at any time during the show, and we will get to them toward the end. Today, I'd like to get to our guests. We've got a very special guest, former Colgate Raider, Golden State Warrior, current writer. We have got Adonal Foyle here with us today.
Thank you for having me, man.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. How are you, man? How's quarantine treating you?
Oh, man, I have been trying to walk out, climb the house, become a farmer. I've been reading a lot. It's been surreal. This is not normal. So
Right.
it's been difficult, but like everybody else, been trying to figure out ways to be innovative at home.
Right. I mentioned you did some writing. You wrote a piece today called An Open Letter to My Fellow NBA Players. You published that today on LinkedIn. Now, it was a good piece. What inspired you to write that?
I just thought that, the climate that we're in, I thought the players has done such an amazing job of bringing very vital issues to the stage to really have important conversation. And we've been having those conversations, and a lot of our players in the bubble have been leaning into those conversations. Guys outside of the bubble had been doing that. And I just thought that this is really just a slam dunk, making sure that, coming out of the election, you hear like everybody in the NBA that can vote voted. I think
Right.
that is a great narrative, and I just thought that this is really an easy play that we can finish at the basket, and there's no reason not to do it. There's no reason to just leave that open so somebody can criticize us for things that we have done really well. And I just thought the way the players have been acting has been really inspirational to a lot of people, and now we just have to follow through and go get that dunk.
Now, I saw you. It was a shocking number to me, the number of eligible NBA players that voted last time. What was that? Can you tell me that number?
Yes, and they were saying something around 21%. And,
Wow.
I think so much of how the league is played is like guys go into areas that they're not from,
Right.
and they're going into a basketball bubble. So they're not really in the community as much because they're coming into that. And in some cases, guys are moving back and forth to different teams. So I just thought that, this year, with everything that is going on, it's very important to just focus in on that, because I think 2016 there's a lot of things been going on, but I think now
Definitely.
you had an opportunity to see and to really understand how important this is, and to really model behavior for the rest of people that follow professional athletes.
Now that you said 21%, what's a realistic number? Because 21%, that is it's staggering for the numbers.
Right.
I mean, for the reasons you mentioned. But what's a realistic goal for that?
I think the realistic goal will be everybody who can. I mean, we have a lot of international players that are not residents here, that are residents but may not be citizens, are entitled to vote. So I got to go back and look at the numbers and see, how many people actually are able to vote and how many people can't because of where they're from and not being American citizens. And I think that number is going to change. I think that guys understand how important this is.
Definitely. Let me ask, why is voting? Why is it such an important issue to you?
I think when you look at the history of this country and you look at a person like John Lewis that we lost, this year, I mean, we've seen so many sacrifices for the right to vote. It is the very thing that I think differentiate our democracy from every other democracy. When you look at what's happening across the world, what makes the United States so special is that it gives its citizens the opportunity to determine who lead them. So there is nothing more important in a democracy than having people being able to effectively participate in that democracy, and really to not have barriers that prevents them from doing so. And what we've seen in this country, for many, many years, is that there has been barriers for people to really exercise what is the essential right of being an American citizen.
Yeah, definitely. You get into, a lot of the voter suppression things that have been going on for a long time, and unfortunately are still going on.
Right. Even more so. And I think that's why we have to, it's so important when players are educating the constituencies and educating the people that come to the game and watch the games. The importance of voting is so essential, because some people feel like, change is so slow, things doesn't happen, politicians is not responsive to them. But I will say that there's a lot of work for us as citizens need to do in order to ensure that we have a vibrant democracy. And that is, we have to understand that we have to convince people of the path forward, right? But irregardless of anything else, the most essential thing you have to do first is show up. The people who show up is the people who get to determine, policies and get to determine the shape of the debate, to really determine the ground in which the fight happens, right? So what you see with people in the street, racial issue has become in the forefront, and it's because the citizens are saying, this is important. We don't like what is happening, and we want systematic change to ensure that our Black brothers that are unarmed doesn't get killed, Black brothers and sisters that are unarmed that don't get killed when they have interactions with cops. So you can see how important democracy is in driving not only the debate, but then to really end that by then going into the polls and making sure that your voices are heard.
Is this something you've always been passionate about, or since you came to this country, you mentioned like the international players?
Yeah, I've been, I came to this country in 1990, and, I started Democracy Matters, really a foundation that really empowered the next generation of young leaders. We have been in college campuses all over the country for many, many years. I started the Democracy Matters when I was in the league, because I felt that it was important that one of the crises that this country faces is the proliferation of money in politics, to get in leads a little bit. So if you think everything you think about as a citizen that is important, the question is, whether or not you have an opportunity to voice that concern in the electoral system. But if money becomes the determinant of what gets discussed, right? If you have to go and pay $5,000 to go speak to a politician,
to even get heard,
right? None of the conversation you care about, because you don't have that money. So I think it's very important that we look at our system and really try to change it. And I've been doing that my entire life, coming from an island where we have 120,000 people, the 3 or 4 people who didn't vote in an election. Right. It's always been something that is part of, my DNA, and something that I think is vital to any thriving democracy and to any democracy in general.
How do you think, we talked about how the players and what the players can do. How do you think the NBA as a whole is doing concerning the messaging on the court, some of the commercials, the votes, the Black Lives Matter, some of that, those initiatives? How do you think they're doing as a league?
I think it's been really spot on. I thought we have been on the ball and really turn this conversation, really make people aware of some of the challenges faced, by athletes. And I think what's really important to understand is that I think in the past, when athletes go to the NBA, they tend to kind of move away from the communities. But I think in recent years, what the internet has been able to do is that there is still that connection. There's still that lifeblood. So you never really leave your city anymore, right? So you're still connected to it. What you see what LeBron has been doing, going into those communities and really giving kids opportunities. And there's many players across the league for many years that have been doing this stuff. But I think we're at a moment now where the lights are on. And I think we really step up to the plate, and we're doing an amazing job of bringing much needed awareness to issues that really affect our communities.
Now, have you been keeping up with the basketball in the bubble? I know you cover the Warriors, but are you still watching the playoffs and the finals?
Yeah, I've been doing some post-game analysis with ABC, local channel here. So that's been a lot of fun, really looking at what LeBron has been doing and Miami rise in the East. It's been phenomenal to watch basketball. Many of us didn't know how this was going to happen and how it was going to look.
You and me both, yeah.
Exactly. And I think now we're talking about, man, this has been really some high quality basketball. Obviously we want our fans back, but in light of what, has been happening, being able to do it in this way, in such a safe way, and protecting our players and the people that support them, and not having any covert positive tests in the bubble. I just think it's been a testament to how the league has conducted himself. And I think now we have an opportunity to help be one of the leagues that really shape how we move forward in the future and how we engage our players with the communities.
I see your Warriors stuff, and you mentioned doing some stuff for the Warriors. What do you think they have to do, to get back? Because normally, any other year, the Warriors, they're in this bubble too, probably playing in the finals. So what do you think they have to do?
I think the Warriors is in a unique situation because I think part of the thing is they just need to get healthy. I think that's the most important thing. And, Steve Kerr said as much. So they're going to get healthy. And then they have some interesting decisions. When I look at the West and you look at AD and you look at the way LeBron is playing, he's playing like a power forward or center.
Yeah.
You look at Dwight's play, right? So I think big man is going to be a critical part. I think you're going to have a reintegration of the importance of the big man to swat shots, rebound, set great picks, and dunk the ball 50% of the time. It's amazing in the finals and when things get tough. Getting layups and getting easy shot is a big deal, right? Definitely. So I think you're going to see the Warriors say, okay, we have the second pick. What do we do with that? Do we trade? I thought that Andre Iguodala being part of that team was very helpful as a veteran.
Definitely.
Go out and find another veteran. Do they take the pick that is coming in, or do they trade it for a more established big man? So I think they have a plethora of luxuries here because they get the time to get the players healthy, and they have some good picks, and now they have the boat is set where they can make decisions. I think they're going to be okay. I think Steph and Clay is going to be just as good as they were, and now they have to bring in other pieces that can make it a little bit easier.
I saw it was
going to be unmerciful, by the way.
I was going to say it's going to be 10, 12 teams that legit want to make the play and think they have a good chance at it.
Yes, indeed. No, the West is going to be a crazy place to play. I mean, you look at Portland, they're feeling like, okay, we kind of understand what's going on. The Clippers going to have to regroup. Dallas is coming in thinking we're right there. So I mean, and Denver is thinking, every year we're getting better. We're getting the experience we need. We're not afraid anymore. Some of our players are becoming superstars. I see a lot of these teams kind of where the Warriors was in that first run. Right. And they're there now. And the question becomes, how do you continue to improve to the next level?
Now, a smile came over your face. You were talking about some of the bigs coming back into the game. I know, is that something, I was going to say, is that something you love? Like we got Anthony Davis, Jokic, Bam Adebayo. Like it's a number. Oh, Embiid. You gotta love that.
Yeah, man. The league is kind of like a pendulum league in a way, right? So sometimes the player moved the pendulum. Like no one will argue that Shaq and David Robinson and all the old guys, that it wasn't that the teams wanted to shoot threes, is that those guys were really effective, and doing what they do. So you have to find ways to use them in the system. And I thought we got away from that a little bit, but I think part of it is the quality and the amount of big men that we draft into the league. But I see there's a lot of great big men now. You can see college, you see in the international environment that I've spent the last few years participating in, and I'm seeing a return of the big men. Obviously different in the sense that they're most skilled, they're shooting threes.
They're facing the basket.
They're facing the basket, and all that is fine because I think what you see with LeBron and what you see with AD is that when push comes to shove, they have the ability to go in and rebound and block shots. The things that your team need. If you have the height and you can teach the other stuff, then that's a blessing. So I'm not saying he has to come back the way that we played in the past, but I think that big men are understanding that there is a role for them to play, but they have to kind of evolve the skills to fit the roles.
Now, I feel like a lot of older, the retired big men say that they don't like the big men facing up and shooting threes, all that, handling the ball. How do you feel about it?
If you could do it effectively, absolutely. The Joker, I think, has kind of crystallized that. He is not the fastest, but he has a brilliant shot. He has a sense of where he's at. I think it's like it's evolution, right? The game is always about evolution. Now, if we draft another Shaquille O'Neal and he gets in the paint and dunk the ball 20 times, the league would adjust, right? The team would adjust to him because he's moving the league and forcing them to adjust. So the league has always been about responsive to what they think can get them victories. So it's not unusual that we're going to constantly see changes in the league, and that as big men evolve and as other players evolve, you're going to see that they come with different kind of skills, passing skills, the ability to step away and shoot a threes. shoot a three. My thing is that really having that balance, right? Knowing when it's okay to do that, when you're shooting 30% from the three versus you can make 60% by making a layup.
Right.
My thing always is take the layup, and when the three is available, take it. Don't be shy, but don't try to be what Steph Curry is as a big man.
Right.
So take what you got. If you have it, shoot it, but know that your bread and butter is on the block.
So would you be shooting more if you came up in this era? You think you'd be shooting more threes, or you think that's just never not really your speed? You would have just stuck to, defense, protecting the rim.
Right. So I don't know how to tell you this, but I shot a three once when I was in the NBA, and I think PJ put me on the bench for 20 years.
PJ, Carl, he didn't like that,
right?
So I'm guessing it didn't go in.
It didn't go in. It might have hit the board or something, but it was a start, right?
Right, exactly.
But he benched me, I think, for my entire rookie year. No, I joke, but I did get pulled from the game.
Right.
But my point was, when I played with Don Nelson, and we believe I shot threes all the time in practice, never got it to the game, but it was different. You could see the game has been changing, and it's also the philosophy, of the coach as well.
Mm-hmm. You talked about playing for different coaches. I saw another piece you had written about what the next step is as a player when your coach is fired.
Right.
Is that something do you feel like a front office owes the team an explanation, or owes them how do you think that should be happening? The coaches getting terminated. How do you think it should be handled as a player?
So one of the things that every player will tell you in the NBA is that we're used to having people say no to us in terms of not making a team or not being good enough or being the 11. But telling us the truth and telling us the lay of the land is never a bad thing, right? Because players have been dealing with this. I've had, I think, in my 10 years with Golden State, I think I had 7 or 8 coaches.
Wow.
Which is almost a coach every year.
Yeah.
Right. So, so it's not something we haven't dealt with it. So I think that part of what the responsibility of a team is to understand how destabilizing that is, especially in the middle of a season. So one of the things you have to do, you got to bring the players in and say, here's what we were thinking. This is what we want to do. Here's how we move forward, because that kind of future outlook is so important to get guys refocusing on the task at hand. Because when you do something as disruptive as removing a coach during the course of the season, in a way you're signaling it's over, it's done. Right. But yet you have season ticket wants to come and watch a game that is entertaining. And if you're not focused, you're doing a disservice to the people who pay to come and watch us play. So you owe it to reset the organization, not just the players, the entire organization. You need to reset it and get them thinking about the direction you want to go in and try to get buy-in to that direction, because you're not always building just for the year. You're building for the next year and the year after that.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned sticking with your teammates, after something like that happens. Who were, I guess, when you were a young player, who were some of the veterans that kind of took you under their wing?
I was so lucky. I had some really great guys on my team. I had Mookie Blaylock. I had Muggsy Bogues. I have Felton Spencer, Terry Cummins, Dwayne Farrell. So I had so many amazing guys when I first got in the league that really helped me to understand our business. And I can't really overstate how important that is, right? To have those veteran guys that can show you the ropes, help you to not make some of the silly mistakes that they did. So I think that having those guys is very important. Not only do they help you explain the culture of the team and what the norms are, but they help you try to figure out how to move forward and how to better yourself within the system.
Right. So when you took the step from young guy into vet, who were some of your young guys? Who were you looking out for?
So one of the awesome, I was laughing just the other day because one of the things when I came in, I became the player representative for the union. And in many ways, I was doing my finishing up my college degree, my first year in the league. So I'm always coming in with a bunch of books, and I'm giving guys books. I'm reading books and handing it off to guys. So I've always kind of had the reputation that, and those plane trips, you could play some video games, watch movies, but it's important to spend some time, doing cooking or reading a book or learning a new skill. So I've been one of the people who's always encouraging our guys to do something different, to do something they haven't done before. So I've done that throughout my career and every team I've been on.
Gotcha. So I think we've got a couple questions here. Bridget's going to help us out with our questions. First from Keith Kloss, former player. So my man, Adonal Foyle.
Keith is, man, that's my boy, man. In the days when big men were big men. No.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
Let's see. Jared said, you talked about a little earlier. What do you think the Warriors should do with that first pick?
I think that's really going to be interesting. So I'm not in the room to really hear like how coach surveys the landscape of the West and what they think the most essential needs of the teams is going to be. And so I think that is being, while that discussion is taking place, it's hard to kind of say, well, I think they need a big man, because they might say, well, we need a big man, but maybe we need a more established big man because our horizon is not 5 years. Our horizon is we want to win next year.
Right now, yeah.
Right. So those kind of calculations will determine to a great extent how they pick in the draft, what they do with that pick, how long they're willing to commit to that pick and develop that pick. So I think those are some of the questions. Once you start getting answers, for that, you can better be able to predict how they see the landscape moving in to the next season.
It's a good question from Jared. See, our next question we have from Edris23. Said, can you ask Adonal if he's surprised that he is still the all-time Warriors block leader, even still ahead of Draymond? Are you surprised?
I'm a beast.
Hey, let him know. Let him know.
That's what I
do. Yeah, don't let him forget. Let him know.
I think that part of the great things in the old days of being with a team for a very long time is that not only do you get to know the community and really get to know the fans, is that you also have a chance to do great stuff when you're with a team for 10 years. So, I'm fortunate. I was fortunate to be in a team that really liked what I did and encouraged me to do it every single day. But Draymond is an incredible defender. I'm really good at blocking shots.
So look, do you want him or somebody else to come close to it, or you want to stay number one?
Oh no, I want to stay number one.
Okay. That's the correct answer.
I'm not gonna trip anybody, put any voodoo curse in them, but
run out on the court if Draymond's getting close.
I'm not gonna call him up and say mean things to him. No, I let my friends do that. No,
exactly. That's exactly. See, our next question, I've got one from Spencer Prescott. Spencer says, what is one element of the game that isn't utilized that would thrive in today's game?
Oh man, that's a really, really great question. For me is that the game is I think change. What is an element? I would say that from the old days, like to me, it's like Dennis Rodman and a lot of guys really brought defense as an essential virtue. Whether you were a great, incredible offensive player like Michael Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. It was this expectation that you have to play defense, right? And to me, I feel in a way that the game is so much more predicated on just really shooting. And really later on in the game, you see defense taking precedence. So I used to love the game, when it was a low scoring game. I know from an audience perspective, from a television perspective, not as fun, but from an old, purist player who is never going to change and stuck in his ways. I just love when a great player say, okay, I'm going to score 20 points, but I'm going to make sure that you don't score your 20. I'm going to try to hold you to 15. I think that kind of one-on-one, taking it personal, that was, I think, a really important part of the game. I used to laugh, you used to hear Gary Payton dunk. They're chopping 100 miles an hour. I got you. You can't get,
Right.
I miss that. I think that there is definitely some value and pride that was taken in defense that is not a thing as much anymore.
I think we've got one last question here. This is from the Tom Penny, and talking about the offensive big man. He says, do you think KarlAnthony Towns can be the best player for a legit championship team?
KarlAnthony Towns to me is a terrific player. Upside is unbelievable. I think that he has the basic ingredients to be an exceptional basketball player, and he can do a lot of things in the flow. I mean, I think interestingly, to me, is he has to somehow believe that a little bit more. Sometimes you see from game to games where he comes into a game and he will dominate that game,
right,
but it's not as consistent. So for me, what I'll be looking at as a coach in that team is how are you able to teach him how to make that behavior be repeatable every game. So every game we should expect, 20 points, right? It's like you should find a way to do that, whether it's getting fouls more.
Like consistency.
Yeah. So to me, is that consistency is the next step. I love his game. I think that as a big man makes me feel excited about the future and what we can see from that position. And he's one of the people that I think has everything to do it. The question now, I think, is more from the shoulder up rather than from the shoulder down.
Right. Yeah. And one last question we ask all our legends before we get out of here. We're making a playlist. What's something you're listening to right now? It can be something old, something new. What are you... Just give us a couple songs. What's on your playlist?
I'm one of those people. I'm very, very eclectic with my music, as my friends tell you. It's like, so whatever it is, if there's a playlist, Bob Marley must be in it. You gotta have Jimmy Cliff in it, Marshall Montano. So that's the Caribbean piece. But I'm the kind of dude that I want Pavarotti, I want Jesse Norman.
Classical, yeah.
So I love music. Sarah Vaughan, you can never go wrong. I mean, I'm old school with my music, and you definitely got to have a little bit of Tupac in there, no matter what you have. So that's kind of me. I'm all over the place.
I was like, good. We got a good range of stuff to add to our playlist. All right, Adonal, we won't take any more of your time. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Of course. I'd like to remind everybody that we'll have new episodes here every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. You can catch us on the @NBA Alumni Twitter page, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'd like to remind our viewers that you can watch replays of any episodes at legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive. Again, legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive. You can catch the audio replay to our conversations on Apple Podcasts or Spotify by searching for Legends Studio. And we will catch you next week.